Jennifer Alexander. I'm a patient activist. I'm working on the campaign to legalize marijuana for all adults in Oregon right now, and just involved in general with different groups. Like I said, really quick, I don't believe that there should be any requirement for 21 and older. If I heard correctly, we're removing it for caregivers, but not for growers. I think that adults are subject to the same criminal penalties, regardless of whether they're 18, 19, 20, 21. There's no reason to withhold that if they're going to be subject to criminal penalties anyway. National background checks, I'm not sure that those are necessary. I understand where you guys are going with that. If that is necessary, I don't think that should fall on patients whatsoever. I have a few ideas which I've presented in my written testimony being handed out now as to how we could possibly make that more reasonable. Since I am short on time, I'll let you guys read that part. Requiring patients to be Oregon residents, Lee addressed slightly, but to be very clear, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act is not something extra. It's a protection that we deemed necessary for sick people who use marijuana. It shouldn't matter where they live. That's all I have to say about that one.
Okay.
The will versus may, we've covered well. Minors, I agree with Jose 100%. We're putting additional burdens on those children who are already, we're talking 50 out of 50,000 patients are minors. That's 0.1% of these are minors. I know for a fact that there are not a bunch of doctors, parents, and children conspiring together. Maybe one or two, but you guys are basically looking at penalizing the other 48. So I disagree with that. Those are sick people that need every penny they can to put towards their health care right now, especially. The final one, that provides a list of gross sites to police. This is where I want to put my biggest focus. This really, really bothers me. And as I explained to you the other day when I met with you, I respect law enforcement. I always have, and I hope I always will. But I'm really disturbed by the things that I've seen as relates to this medical marijuana program and how the database is used by law enforcement. So before I jump into my PowerPoint, I heard something a minute ago from the three fellows that were sitting here that really, really disturbs me. They said that when they get a call or a complaint that somebody is growing marijuana, their first step is the database. Absolutely not. That is not how it should be. That database is to verify that I am a valid user. Until they have proof that I have marijuana, they shouldn't be touching that database. My neighbor calling is not proof. There is no reason they should be touching that database until they see me with marijuana in my hand. They pull me over. They're getting a search warrant at that point. I could be mistaken, but I don't think a call from my neighbor is cause for a search warrant. I think they need more than that. And I think that that's the problem that we're having with the way the law enforcement is using this. They're going to it first. No, that's my private confidential information. You don't go there first. You go there when there's a need to verify that I am a valid card holder. At that point, there should be marijuana card holder, and I say, I'm a patient. I'm protected. And the cop should go look. Yes, you are. And be on his way. That's not the way that they're using it, though. So that's to go into our PowerPoint slide here. Thanks to Russ Belville, Christine McGarvin, Russell Gold, and quite a few other people, we were able to put this together. It's been an ongoing work in process. About the last week or so, we finally got a key to the ORI IDs, which are the agency IDs for each agency that's accessing the OMMP database. Before that, we had a bunch of numbers that we really couldn't make sense of. So this was perfect timing. How do I advance through it? Do I just
Right arrow.
Just the arrow? Okay. So the OMMA specifically says, as I was just addressing, that you can only access the database to verify cardholder status. Verification implies that you have some reason to believe that they need to verify it. It's not to check if they might be a cardholder, and that they may not release or use the information for any other purpose. On that note, I've given you guys a whole bundle of information that I hope you all take some serious time to look through, especially if you do consider moving forward with this bill, illustrating quite a few abuses of law enforcement, including Washington County, as Lee Berger said, who issued a map of the investigations in their county that were related to OMMP. Now, these were not convictions. These were investigations. So these people were innocent until proven guilty. The OMMA should have still continued to protect that confidentiality and until there was a conviction. At the point of a conviction, I could see them saying, we've convicted this many patients that were out of compliance. But that's, again, not what they're doing. When they released that map, Sergeant Thompson of Washington County, spokesperson there, said, "We are going what the state advises." He considered ORS 475331 advice, not the law. In Polk County, and it's also included in your packet, they listed the address, the name, the fact that this fellow was over his limit, and then they concluded the media release by saying that they left his wife, also a patient, at home with her 3 children after they confiscated her guns with a user amount of marijuana. So now they have her address. They know she's got 1.5 pounds of marijuana, 3 kids, and no guns. That really disturbed me, and that's actually why I'm sitting here today. That made me so mad as a mother and a patient that was put out there in the media. As I put into the paperwork that you guys have, I call that a sitting duck. They might as well have directed the criminals to our house, and that offends me on all levels. Washington County, Douglas County, Jackson County, all of these have been involved in the various concealed handgun licenses. I've put the Held v. Handling case in your packet there, which the court found that it was a violation of the OMMP to go digging for background checks, and the Douglas County Sheriff openly admitted to doing so, and that's relevant for the data we're going to get to in a minute. And then the final thing is that there's a lot of anecdotal things that I can't prove to you, but I'm hoping what I've just given to you is enough proof in that packet. But there's people that get knocks on their door and they're asked to do a compliance check. They want to come count their plants by law enforcement. Or they'll get stopped at a traffic stop, and the first thing out of the police officer's mouth will be, "Can I see your OMMP card?" before they've ever claimed to be a patient or grower. We're going to have 4 charts here really quick. The first one is going to show the LEDS.
Yeah, I just want you to know, Jennifer, we're
Almost,
done at
yes.
4:30 then.
The first one's going to show the number of the off hours one. The second one is going to show them by patient population. Then the third one is going to show them by drug crimes, which is the other aspect of that. And then the final one is going to compare all 3 of those factors. So when you look at the chart here, the 3 red ones are the ones with the lowest number of patient populations per 1,000 individuals. And you guys all have a copy of this in your folder to look at in more detail later, because I knew I'd be short on time. The 3 red ones are the lowest patient populations. As you can see, Washington County is one of those, and Washington County is one of the ones that's always going on about the abuse and the growing and things like that, Sheriff Rob Gordon, et cetera. The dark green one down there, Josephine County, is one of the highest patient populations. Still, it's less than 4% of the population. The light green and the yellow are the different variations between there. And as I said, you guys have those exact numbers spelled out in that data table there where you can look at them closer later. But I want to spend more time on these next ones. This is the LEDS access per patient. And so what we're looking at here is Marion County is the highest access, even though if you look at this little chart over here, it's that same color code we were just looking at as far as the patient population. Marion County is one of the lower, it's not the lowest, but it's one of the lower end of patient populations, yet they're hitting the database the most. You can look at Yamhill, Polk, and Benton County, which were well in the lowest, and they're also hitting that quite a bit. So then we move on to per drug crimes. Okay, so they're hitting the database. There's not a lot of patients. We presume these are all illegal grows. There should be crime rates to go with this. We find that that's not true. As a matter of fact, in these dark red areas, and ignore Wheeler County because it's an outlier, there was 10 LEDSs and 1 crime. So that one's a little bit obscure. The rest of them are much more relative, and as I said, the data's there. But as you're looking, Marion County, Curry County, those are 5 LEDS database checks, for the OMMP card holders per drug crime. To be very clear, these drug crimes are not marijuana crimes. These are drug crimes, all drug crimes. Another further statistic to throw in here that the officers earlier did not know, and I do, is how many marijuana arrests there are per year. I don't know how many of them are OMMP, but I do know how many total there are, according to the data also in your packet. 239 per year in 2000, or 239 per month is the average for the year of 2008. 299 per month is the average for 2009. That works out to be at most 3,600 for the year. If you look at this total on this page here, 23,000 drug crimes. So these LEDS hits aren't even related to marijuana in most cases, and we're still seeing a 5-to-1 ratio where they're not finding drugs. They're not finding illegal activity with the marijuana, and they're not finding problems with the patients either. This final graph, I think, is the most illustrative. And what you're looking at here is everybody that had a greater than 100% ratio to patients, cardholders, versus LEDS access. So if it was less than 1%, they were left off just because it would have been a very messy chart. The bottom is the LEDS access per patient in those counties. The side there is LEDS per reported drug crimes, and as I said, that's all drug crimes. Multnomah County is the big, huge ball there. The size of that ball is relative to the population of cardholders, and that way you've got all three of those factors in one graph. The ones I'm most concerned about personally, although I think they're all a concern, is the blue one up there, the yellow one, the green one, and these other ones that are drifting out. What you're seeing here, like with this big yellow one, for example, is that there were 5 LEDS OMMP accesses per patient in that county and 5 accesses per drug crime in that county. If they're not a patient and it's not a drug crime, what was it? That's a lot of accesses that aren't accounted as either one of those. So there's clearly stuff going on with a couple of these counties, Washington County and Douglas County and places like that. We know they're using them as background checks. This is wrapping it up. They're using them as background checks. Knowing that makes a lot of those other ones look a lot worse, because if we know that they're paying it inappropriately, and some of these other counties have even higher numbers, like Marion County, that we don't know if they're using it as background checks, we really, really cannot trust law enforcement to oversee this themselves. I spoke with you the other day about imposing penalties. I'd like to see that happen if law enforcement misuses the database. No list to law enforcement whatsoever. We need to strict oversight of watching them. And I also agree with the supply problem thing, which is probably something better for you guys to be spending your time focusing on right now, because it's not crime, it's helping patients. It just so happens we call it a crime today. Thank you.
Okay. Any quick questions? I greatly appreciate all of you today coming in like this. This is, I just want to take a moment. Some of you, have heard me share this before. This is an area that I do have some concern with, but I have really grown in understanding, or trying to understand what's going on here as well. And that's with 29 years with state police. Especially this last summer when I stumbled onto an individual and I think, Bob, I may have shared this with you, I don't know, that was suffering from MS. And he needed to have medical marijuana twice a day in his life. I'm stunned at how much that saved him on prescription drugs. So, I just want you to know I'm trying to be conscientious of what's going on here as well. We greatly appreciate you coming in. If you have written testimony that you would like to share with us, please, we're going to be open to receive that till noon tomorrow, Jim?
Anytime tomorrow is fine. We'll put it on the record. We'll have it on the record under this bill, and on this date you'll see it posted to the internet on the committee's webpage, and we'll put anything on there that we get anytime tomorrow or today.
Thank you very much.